The desert wind carried fine silver dust across the horizon as Aaron walked carefully on the stone path that led toward the moon tower. His boots were worn, his cloak faded from many days of travel, but his eyes were bright with curiosity. Every traveler in Saravan spoke of the tower that whispered at night. Some said it was the voice of the stars, others believed it was the memory of an ancient civilization. Aaron had come from far away to see it for himself. The tower stood tall against the sky, shining faintly under the glow of the twin moons. It was not made of stone like human towers, but of smooth glass like crystal that shimmered as though it carried its own light. The closer he walked, the quieter the desert seemed, until even the sound of his footsteps felt heavy and soft. Aaron stopped at the base of the tower, tilting his head back. It was taller than anything he had ever seen. At the top, he thought he saw faint ripples of light, as if the air itself bent and whispered there. His heart beat faster. He had read stories about great wonders, but seeing it with his own eyes made it feel unreal. The door at the base was open. He hesitated only for a moment before stepping inside. The air was cool and carried a faint hum, as though the walls themselves were breathing. The floor shone with soft patterns that looked like shifting stars. Aaron touched the wall gently. It was warm, like skin, not cold like stone. He was so lost in thought that he did not notice he was not alone. A quiet voice spoke from the shadows. "You should not touch the tower without asking." Aaron turned quickly. From the far side of the chamber, a figure stepped forward. She was taller than him, slender, her skin pale with a faint silver glow that reflected the moonlight. Her hair flowed long and dark, and her eyes shone like polished crystal. She wore simple robes marked with patterns of moons and stars. For a moment, Aaron forgot his words. He had met many kinds of people in his travels, but never anyone like her. She looked at him with calm curiosity, not anger, though her words carried a gentle warning. "I am sorry," Aaron said at last. His voice sounded too loud in the quiet chamber. "I have traveled far to see this place. I did not mean harm." The silver-eyed figure stepped closer, her robes flowing softly behind her. "Few humans come here," she said. "The moon tower does not open its doors easily." Aaron glanced at the open entrance and then back at her. "It opened for me." The woman studied him for a moment, then tilted her head slightly. "Strange," she whispered, almost to herself. "Perhaps the tower wished to show you something." Aaron smiled faintly, though he felt uncertain. "And who are you?" he asked. "I am Lyra," she replied. "A scholar of the tower. I have listened to its whispers for many years." Her gaze lingered on him. "And you are?" "Aaron," he said simply. "A traveler. I follow stories and try to see if they are true." Lyra gave a small nod. "Then you are braver than most. Many hear the whispers but fear them. They say the tower speaks of things that should remain hidden." Aaron looked around the chamber, listening to the faint hum that filled the air. "And do you fear it?" Her eyes softened. "No. The tower speaks to those who listen with patience. It does not shout. It waits." Aaron thought her words were unusual but wise. He found himself wanting to ask more questions, but he also felt her watching him carefully, as if she was unsure whether to trust him. The hum in the walls grew stronger for a moment, like a breath. Both Aaron and Lyra turned their eyes upward. Somewhere far above, the whisper of the tower drifted down like a soft voice carried by wind. Neither of them could make out the words, but the sound filled the chamber with mystery. Aaron spoke quietly, almost in wonder. "It really does whisper." Lyra nodded. Yes. The tower remembers more than we can understand. But sometimes, if two hearts listen together, the whispers become clear. Aaron raised his brows. Two hearts. She looked at him directly. Her silver eyes glowed faintly under the moonlight that entered through the open door. Yes. Alone, the tower says little. But together, it speaks. Aaron felt the weight of her gaze and the meaning of her words. Something about this place, something about meeting her, felt important, like he had stepped into a story greater than himself. The night stretched quietly around them. Aaron, the human traveler, and Lyra, the guardian scholar, stood together at the base of the moon tower. The whispering hum rose and fell, as if the tower itself was waiting for them to listen. And so their story began. The next morning, the desert around the moon tower was quiet, wrapped in soft golden light. Aaron woke from his small camp outside the entrance and stretched his tired arms. He had not rested well, for his thoughts kept circling around the silver-eyed scholar he had met the night before. Lyra. Her calm voice, her strange words about the tower, and her gaze that seemed to see more than most eyes could, all of it stayed in his mind. He packed his few belongings and walked back inside the tower. The chamber was cool, filled with the same low hum, steady like a heartbeat. Lyra was already there, standing by a tall stone table covered with glowing scrolls and crystal tablets. Her fingers moved carefully over the markings, tracing symbols that Aaron could not read. You returned, Lyra said softly without looking up. I said I came to learn, Aaron replied with a small smile. It would be foolish to leave so soon. Finally, she lifted her eyes to him. There was no sharpness in her look this time, only a quiet acceptance. Most humans lose interest quickly. They search for treasure or simple answers. The tower does not give such things. Aaron stepped closer, looking at the scrolls. Then what does it give? Lyra tilted her head, studying him. Questions. More than answers. He gave a light laugh. Then I came to the right place. I already carry too many questions. Her lips curved in the faintest smile, though it was brief. She turned back to her work and gestured toward the wall where the hum was strongest. The tower whispers at night, but during the day, it leaves traces. We read the patterns left on the crystal walls. They shift like the sky. Aaron followed her hand, looking at the faint silver lines that glowed along the curved surface. They formed shapes that moved slowly, like water flowing in still air. Some lines twisted together, forming circles and stars. Does it mean something? He asked. Yes, Lyra said, her voice gentle. But not in words, you know. It speaks in memory and feeling. That is why two must listen together. Alone, one heart hears only fragments. Together, the meaning grows stronger. Aaron folded his arms, watching the lines move. Then perhaps you and I should try. Lyra's expression remained calm, but there was a flicker of surprise in her eyes. You are bold, human traveler. You know nothing of the risks. Maybe, Aaron admitted. But I know that no great story begins without a risk. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. The tower's hum echoed softly between them. Then Lyra looked away, her hair falling like dark silk across her shoulders. Perhaps one night, we will listen together. For now, watch. She showed him how the scrolls glowed when touched by moonlight, how the symbols shifted depending on the voice that read them aloud. Aaron listened closely, though the language was strange to his ears. Still, he tried, stumbling through the shapes of the words. Lyra's voice, calm and even, guided him gently. "You learn quickly," she said after a while. Aaron gave a small grin. "Or perhaps your teaching is good." Her eyes lingered on him, unreadable, then she turned back to the scrolls. "Do not flatter, human. The tower does not respond to empty words." "I don't flatter," Aaron replied, his tone steady. "When I speak, I mean it." This time, Lyra did not answer. Yet the faintest warmth touched her face before she lowered her eyes. Hours passed as they worked together. Aaron asked endless questions: why the tower whispered only under the moons, why no one else had unlocked its full secrets, why it chose certain people. Lyra did not always answer, but she did not turn him away either. Instead, she explained what she could and let him discover the rest with his own eyes. When the suns began to sink behind the desert, the chamber filled again with silver light. The hum deepened, carrying a rhythm like distant waves. Lyra placed her hands on the crystal wall and closed her eyes. Aaron, without thinking too much, stepped closer and did the same. For a brief moment, the whisper grew clearer. It was like a soft voice speaking in two tones, weaving words they could almost understand. Aaron felt his chest tighten as though the sound was alive, reaching into his thoughts. He glanced at Lyra, who stood only an arm's length away. Her expression was calm, but her eyes opened slowly, and for the first time, he saw something unguarded in them. Then the sound faded, leaving only the hum. Lyra drew back slightly. "Enough for tonight." Aaron lowered his hand, his mind buzzing with wonder. "We almost heard it, didn't we?" "Yes," Lyra admitted. "The tower noticed us." She hesitated, then added quietly, "Perhaps it waits for us." Aaron felt a strange warmth at her words. Not just curiosity, but something deeper, something that made him want to stay. He looked at the glowing walls, then at her. "Then I will be here, as long as it takes." The twin moons rose higher, silver light filling the tower. And as the desert night settled in, two hearts remained inside, standing closer than they had the day before, listening together for whispers that promised both mystery and fate. The night air outside the moon tower was calm, filled with silver light from the twin moons. Aaron stood at the balcony halfway up the tower, leaning on the smooth railing. The desert stretched endlessly, glowing softly under the pale sky. He had traveled far across many lands, but he had never seen a night so bright and strange. Behind him, the soft sound of footsteps echoed. Lyra entered quietly, carrying a small crystal lantern that glowed like a captured star. She placed it on the floor and walked to stand beside him. "You should not stand alone here," she said gently. "The tower is strongest under both moons. It watches, it listens." Aaron glanced at her with a smile. "Then maybe it will speak tonight." Lyra's silver eyes turned toward the sky. "Perhaps. But remember, it speaks only to two hearts." Aaron nodded, remembering her words from before. He felt both nervous and curious. "Then maybe it waits for us." For a moment, she did not answer. She simply stood with her hands folded, the moonlight catching the faint glow of her skin. The silence between them was not heavy, it felt like a pause before something important. At last, she said softly, "If you are certain, we can try." Aaron stepped back into the chamber, where the walls shimmered faintly. The hum had grown stronger since sunset, like a song waiting to be sung. Lyra guided him toward the center of the chamber, where a circle of crystal lines glowed on the floor. "Stand here," she said. "And place your hand on the wall when I do. Breathe slowly." Listen with more than your ears. Aaron obeyed, his heart beating quickly. Lyra moved with calm grace, placing her hand against the wall. Aaron followed her, his palm pressing on the cool crystal. For a long moment, there was only silence and the steady hum. Then, slowly, the sound changed. The hum deepened, layering into tones that rose and fell like a hidden voice. The walls pulsed faintly with silver light, and the air felt alive. Aaron drew in a sharp breath. "Do not speak," Lyra whispered. "Just listen." Aaron closed his eyes. The sound wrapped around him like a tide. It was not words at first, more like feelings. A sense of warning, of distance, of shadows moving across the desert skies. Then, little by little, it shaped itself into faint voices, soft but clear. "Two must listen. Two must remember. The shadow comes." Aaron's eyes snapped open. He looked at Lyra, and by her expression, he knew she had heard the same. Her lips parted slightly, her calm mask broken for the first time. "The shadow," she whispered. "It speaks of danger." The tower's glow brightened, and the whispers grew stronger. Aaron felt his chest tighten as the voices painted pictures in his mind, dark shapes covering the moons, cities falling silent, people scattering in fear. It was not just a vision, it felt like a memory carried by the tower itself. Lyra's hand trembled against the wall. "It is clearer than ever before," she said softly. "Because you are here." Aaron frowned, still listening. "Me? Why me?" "The tower chooses," Lyra replied, her voice shaking slightly. "Perhaps it needed a human heart. You carry emotions in ways we cannot. That may be the key." Aaron tried to absorb her words, but the whispers pulled at him again. This time, the tone shifted. He felt warmth, hope, a light cutting through the dark visions. The voice was soft, almost kind. "Together, you can awaken the memory. Together, you will stand." Aaron's breath caught. The words felt like they were meant for them alone. He turned his head slightly, seeing Lyra's silver eyes wide with wonder. For the first time, she looked uncertain, not the calm scholar, but someone facing something greater than herself. Finally, the glow dimmed, and the whispers faded into the steady hum once more. The chamber fell silent. Both of them lowered their hands slowly, as though afraid to break the moment. Aaron spoke first, his voice low. "We heard it? Both of us?" "Yes," Lyra said, her tone quiet but full of weight. "The tower spoke of shadow. It has warned us before, but never so clear." She turned to him, her eyes steady. "And it spoke of us." Aaron held her gaze. For a moment, the silence between them carried more meaning than words. He felt the strange bond the tower had shown them, a connection that had grown in only a few days but felt older, deeper. "What do we do now?" he asked. Lyra looked toward the glowing walls, her expression thoughtful. "We must learn more. The whispers are not only warnings, they are guidance. If the shadow comes, the tower may hold the way to resist it." She paused, her voice softer. "But it will not open without you." Aaron felt both the weight of her words and a flicker of warmth in his chest. He had come here as a traveler chasing stories, but now the story had chosen him. He looked out through the open archway, where the twin moons shone above the endless desert. "Then we listen together," he said firmly. Lyra nodded, her eyes glowing faintly in the silver light. "Together." And under the watch of the twin moons, with the hum of the tower still surrounding them, Aaron and Lyra stood side by side, two hearts drawn into a secret that belonged to both of them, and to the destiny that waited beyond the whispers. The following days passed in quiet study. Aaron and Lyra spent long hours in the moon tower, reading glowing scrolls, tracing patterns on the walls, and listening for the whispers that came with the moons. Each night, the voices grew a little clearer, and each day, their bond grew a little stronger. But not everyone was pleased with Aaron's presence. One evening, as the suns began to sink and the moons rose, Aaron walked into the main chamber to find Lyra standing with 3 other scholars. They were taller than her, their robes marked with silver symbols of higher rank. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were sharp. One of them, a man with a long crest of pale hair, spoke first. "So this is the human traveler," he said, his tone low and cautious. "You let him walk freely in the tower." Lyra kept her voice steady. "The tower itself opened to him. That is not something we can ignore." Another scholar, her eyes dark and narrow, shook her head. "The tower is sacred. Humans chase stories and glory. What if he seeks to twist its power?" Aaron stood quietly, listening. He did not know their language well, but Lyra spoke in a tongue he could understand, repeating their words for his sake. When she finished, he met her eyes and spoke calmly. "I did not come here to take. I came to learn." The first scholar frowned. "Words are easy, human. Trust is not." The room grew tense. Aaron felt the weight of their stares, heavy like the desert heat. He wanted to argue, but he knew anger would only make their doubts stronger. Instead, he stepped forward and placed his hand gently on the wall of the tower. The hum deepened at his touch, soft ripples of light spreading across the crystal surface. The scholars fell silent. Aaron spoke again, his voice steady. "I do not control the tower. It chooses to speak when I listen with Lyra. If that is wrong, then why does it answer?" The glow from the wall lingered, pulsing gently as if agreeing with him. The scholars exchanged uneasy looks. Finally, the woman spoke again. "Perhaps the tower has its reasons. But know this, human, if you bring harm, if your heart carries greed, the tower itself will cast you out." Aaron nodded. "Then I have nothing to fear. My heart seeks truth, nothing more." The scholars left soon after, though their eyes remained doubtful. When they were gone, the chamber felt lighter, though the silence between Aaron and Lyra carried unspoken weight. "You see now," she said quietly. "Not all trust you as I do. My people fear change. They fear humans because you are unpredictable." Aaron gave a small smile. "Maybe that is not always bad. Unpredictable means we can see paths others miss." Her lips curved faintly, though her eyes were thoughtful. "Perhaps. But it also means you can be dangerous." Aaron looked at her seriously. "Do you believe I am dangerous?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she shook her head slowly. "No. The tower would not have answered if your heart was false." The words warmed Aaron more than he expected. He had felt out of place since he arrived, but hearing her trust him eased the weight on his chest. That night, as the moons rose high, Aaron and Lyra stood once more at the circle in the chamber. They placed their hands on the glowing walls, and together they listened. The whispers came quickly, stronger than before. Shadows move. Cities fall silent. Fear spreads. But light waits in hearts that stand as one. The voices filled their minds, weaving images of vast skies covered in dark shapes. Yet, alongside the fear, there was also hope bright and steady, like a flame refusing to die. Aaron breathed deeply. The shadow again. It is close, isn't it? Lyra's voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed her worry. Yes. The tower warns us of what is coming. If it spoke so clear tonight, the danger is near. Aaron turned to her, his voice firm. Then we cannot waste time. Whatever the shadow is, we face it together. She looked at him, and for a moment, the scholar's calm mask slipped. He saw the worry in her eyes, but also the trust she had given him. Slowly, she nodded. Together, she repeated. The whisper faded, leaving the steady hum once more. The chamber returned to silence, but the words lingered in their hearts. That night, Aaron did not sleep. He lay under the twin moons, staring at the glowing tower, knowing the shadows were real and drawing closer. But he also knew he was not alone. Lyra believed in him, even against her people's doubts. And for the first time since he left his home, Aaron felt that his journey had found its true purpose. The desert sky had always been a place of calm beauty. The two suns burned bright by day, and the twin moons cast their silver glow by night. But now, something strange had begun to stir in the heavens. Aaron stood at the edge of the moon tower's balcony, watching the horizon. A dark smear stretched across the stars like a wound in the sky. It was faint at first, but each night it grew larger. The whispers of the tower had warned them, and now the signs were real. Behind him, Lyra entered the balcony with quiet steps. She carried no lantern this time, the moons gave enough light. Her silver eyes searched the dark shape above. It has begun, she whispered. Aaron nodded. The shadow. Lyra's face remained calm, but Aaron could sense the unease in her voice. She had always spoken with certainty before, but now even she seemed unsure. The next morning, the other scholars gathered at the base of the tower. Fear showed in their voices as they argued among themselves. Some said the shadow was only a passing storm of the skies. Others whispered of old tales, stories of creatures that once swallowed cities. When Aaron approached, their voices grew quieter, but their eyes stayed sharp. He could feel their doubt pressing on him like a heavy weight. It is because of the human, one said. Since he came, the tower's whispers grew stronger. Perhaps he has awakened something dangerous. Aaron clenched his fists but held his tongue. He knew anger would only deepen their fear. Lyra stepped forward instead, her calm voice cutting through their doubts. No, she said firmly. The shadow was already moving. The tower chose to speak when he arrived. That means he is part of the answer, not the cause. The scholars exchanged uncertain looks. Aaron saw the fear in their eyes, and for a moment, he felt small against their judgment. But then he remembered the whispers, light weights in hearts that stand as one. He stepped forward, his voice steady. I am not here to bring harm. I have seen danger before. I know fear, but I also know that fear can be faced. Shadows cannot be defeated by running. They can only be broken by standing together. The scholars fell silent. His words were simple, but they carried something more than reason, they carried courage. A few of the scholars lowered their eyes, unsettled by the strength in his tone. Later, in the quiet of the tower, Lyra spoke to him. You spoke like one of our leaders, she said softly. Aaron gave a small laugh. I am no leader. I am just a traveler. Her gaze lingered on him. Perhaps. But you carry something rare. Hope. That night, the sky grew darker still. The smear across the heavens spread wide, covering half the stars. The moon seemed dimmer, their glow weakened. The people of Saravan gathered outside the tower, their voices anxious, their hearts unsettled. Lyra stood before them, trying to explain the whispers of the tower, but their fear was too great. Then Aaron stepped forward, raising his voice so all could hear. "You fear the shadow," he said. "So do I. But I tell you, this fear does not win. I have walked through storms, I have faced nights darker than this, and I am still here. The tower whispers not of despair, but of light. If we listen, if we stand together, the shadow will not break us." The crowd grew quiet. Some still doubted, but others began to lift their heads, their eyes catching a spark of courage from his words. After the gathering, Aaron and Lyra climbed high into the moon tower, where the hum of the walls was strongest. They pressed their hands to the crystal, and the whispers came quickly. "The shadow falls. The moons will darken. But two hearts carry the light. Do not falter." Aaron drew in a deep breath. "It speaks of us again." Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes. The tower believes in us." She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "And so do I." Her words struck deep, giving Aaron a warmth he could not name. The world outside was falling into shadow, but inside the tower, he felt something stronger rising, a bond, a trust, and perhaps something more. As the sky darkened further, Aaron stood tall beside Lyra. The shadow was close, closer than ever. But his heart no longer trembled. For the first time, he understood that the whispers of the moon tower were not just warnings. They were a promise. The shadow had grown so vast that it now swallowed half the desert sky. Stars disappeared behind its dark veil, and even the twin moons looked faint and tired. People gathered near the base of the moon tower, whispering in fear. Some prayed, others argued, but all eyes turned toward the crystal tower that had warned them. Inside, the hum of the walls was louder than ever. The glow of the crystal lines pulsed like a living heartbeat. Aaron and Lyra stood at the base of the great stairway that spiraled upward toward the highest point of the tower. Lyra's voice was calm but heavy. "The whispers say the answer lies above. We must climb to the highest chamber. Only there will the tower show its full power." Aaron tightened the strap of his cloak and nodded. "Then let's go. Together." Step by step, they climbed the endless stairs. The walls shimmered faintly, showing shapes that seemed to watch them as they passed. Sometimes Aaron thought he heard soft voices close to his ear, but when he turned, there was no one. The higher they climbed, the stronger the hum became, until it felt like the tower was alive all around them. At last, they reached the top. The chamber was open to the night sky, its roof formed of curved crystal arches that let the silver light pour in. From here, the shadow above looked even closer, like a storm ready to break. The air was cold, and the hum was so strong it felt like it shook their bones. In the center of the chamber stood a great circle carved into the floor, its patterns glowing faintly. Lyra stepped into it, motioning for Aaron to follow. "This is the heart of the tower," she said quietly. "It listens here more than anywhere else. But it will not open unless two hearts stand as one." Aaron stepped into the circle beside her. The floor warmed under his feet, and the glow brightened, as if welcoming them. "Place your hand here," Lyra instructed, pressing her palm against a glowing crest in the circle. Aaron mirrored her action. The moment both hands touched, the chamber burst with light. The walls blazed with silver fire, and the hum rose into a voice that filled the air. It was no longer faint or broken, it was clear, deep, and strong, like the voice of the moons themselves. "The shadow falls. But light waits. Two hearts, joined in trust, will awaken the memory." Two will call the flame. Aaron felt the words echo through his chest. He turned his head toward Lyra. Her silver eyes glowed bright, and he knew she felt the same power moving through her. The floor beneath them shifted, the glowing patterns weaving into new shapes. They formed a great image of the moons, bound together by a line of light. At the center, where Aaron and Lyra stood, the light rose upward like a flame. Aaron's breath caught. "It's answering us." Lyra's voice was steady, though wonder filled her eyes. "Yes. Because we are listening as one." The whispers grew louder, filling the chamber with visions. Aaron saw the shadow stretching across worlds, swallowing light and hope. But then he saw another vision, two figures standing together, their joined light pushing back the darkness. The warmth of the tower's energy spread through him, strong but gentle. He felt his heart race, not from fear, but from the bond that had formed between him and Lyra. Somehow, the tower was showing him that their connection itself was the key. The light surged higher, shooting out through the crystal arches into the night sky. The people below gasped as beams of silver fire cut through the darkness, striking the edge of the shadow. The black veil trembled and pulled back slightly, as though the light had burned it. Aaron and Lyra both pressed their hands harder against the circle, focusing their will. The whisper returned, soft but guiding. "Do not fear. Do not doubt. Together, you are stronger than the shadow." Aaron closed his eyes, holding onto the warmth that connected him to Lyra. He felt her presence beside him, steady and unshaken, and it gave him strength. He whispered softly, "We can do this." "Yes," she replied, her voice calm but full of quiet power. "Together." The flame of light burst once more, brighter than before, spreading across the sky like dawn. The shadow recoiled, its edges breaking apart into fragments that scattered into the dark. The moons regained their silver glow, shining stronger than they had in many nights. Below, the people cried out with relief and awe. The moon tower blazed with brilliance, a beacon in the desert night. At last, the glow faded to a gentle shimmer, and the whispers softened into silence. The chamber returned to calm, though the air still hummed with lingering warmth. Aaron lowered his hand, breathing heavily, but a smile touched his face. "We did it." Lyra stepped back, her eyes still glowing faintly. She looked at him, and for the first time, her calm mask broke into a true smile. "Yes. The tower answered us. And the shadow has been turned away for now." Aaron looked out at the sky, where the stars shone clear again. His heart swelled, not only with victory, but with something deeper. He turned back to Lyra, knowing the whispers had spoken truth. It was not only the tower's power that had saved them. It was the bond they shared. The first light of dawn broke gently over the desert, painting the sands in shades of gold and rose. The twin moons, still faintly visible in the early sky, hung like silver guardians above the moon tower. The air was cool and quiet, carrying the soft hum of the tower that now rested in calm. Aaron stood at the balcony near the top of the tower, looking out over the city below. The people of Saravan moved cautiously, but the fear that had shadowed their hearts was fading. From the top of the tower, he could see the full expanse of the desert, the scattered villages, and the mountains on the horizon. Everything felt peaceful, as if the world had been given a second chance. Behind him, Lyra appeared silently, her robes brushing softly against the floor. She came to stand beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the rising suns. "The tower is quiet now," she said softly, her voice carrying a gentle warmth. "Yes," Aaron replied, turning his gaze from the horizon to her. "It helped us." It showed us the way. Lyra nodded, though her eyes held a thoughtful look. It always waits for the right hearts. You and I, we were ready. Together, we awakened its memory. Aaron felt a quiet pride, but also something deeper, a bond that had grown stronger than he could have imagined in just a few days. He glanced at Lyra, remembering all the nights they had listened to the whispers, climbed the tower, and faced the approaching shadow. Every moment had drawn them closer, and now, with the danger gone, he realized how much he had come to care for her. You know, he said quietly, I never expected to find this. He gestured to the view, the tower, and finally to Lyra herself. When I came here, I thought I would only see stories. But I found something more. Someone more. Lyra turned her head slightly, a faint blush coloring her pale skin. She did not speak immediately, but her eyes softened. I felt the same, she admitted at last. At first, I watched you with caution. Humans are different. But you listen with your heart, and you face what others fear. That is rare. Aaron smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. Then I am glad I stayed. Even when others doubted me, you trusted me. Her gaze held his, steady and sincere. I did. And I would trust you again, no matter what comes next. For a long moment, they stood quietly together, feeling the soft hum of the tower beneath their feet. The world around them seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for the next step in their story. Below, the people of Saravan were beginning to gather near the base of the tower. Their fear had faded into curiosity and hope. They looked up at the humans and scholars who had defended their city, and a quiet admiration spread through the crowd. Aaron and Lyra had become more than protectors, they were symbols of courage, unity, and the light that could shine even in the darkest shadow. Will they be all right? Aaron asked, turning to Lyra. Yes, she replied. Humans have shown them hope. And the tower, it will continue to guide them when needed. We have done our part. Aaron nodded, feeling a sense of completion, but also anticipation. The journey that had begun with whispers and shadows was not over, it had only changed. Now, they would face the future together, stronger and more certain than ever. He stepped closer to her, the wind brushing through their hair. I never imagined I would find someone I could trust like this. Lyra's hand brushed lightly against his. Nor I, she said softly. But now that we have, we must not forget it. Aaron felt a quiet joy, a warmth that had nothing to do with the suns above and everything to do with the bond they shared. Together, they had faced fear, uncovered secrets, and awakened the power of the moon tower. Together, they had stood as one against darkness. The twin moons slowly faded from the sky as the suns rose fully, casting a golden light over the tower and the desert below. Aaron and Lyra stood side by side at the balcony, looking toward the horizon. A new day had begun. And as the city of Saravan stirred beneath them, free from shadow, Aaron realized that the story he had been chasing was not only about adventure, it was about connection, courage, and the quiet power of two hearts standing together. He turned to Lyra, offering a small but genuine smile. Shall we see what comes next? She returned the smile, her silver eyes glowing with quiet excitement. Yes. Together. And so, as the first golden rays touched the moon tower, Aaron and Lyra stepped into the dawn, ready to face the future, united, brave, and bound by the whispers that had brought them together.